Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes, but if you'd like to turn your attention to these two screens over here, we've got a special presentation. You know, there probably aren't very many in the room that remember that Washington, but some of you in the room do, and we're grateful that I see George Staheli just raise his hand. I remembered. We're so grateful that you would all gather here today in this newly remodeled building. This is a momentous occasion, our annual State of the City address, and we're so grateful that you would join us. We want to thank those who helped in preparation, city staff. And at this time, I would like everybody to stand for the national anthem being performed by Mimi Nell.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were
and it is my pleasure to turn the time over to him to share his State of the City address. Will you please help me in welcoming Mayor Kress Staheli?
Well, I'm humbled and honored to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to care enough about Washington City to be here, to find out what's happening and what's happened, and to celebrate this amazing community we live in. As we start, I'd like to recognize this elected body. You, as citizens, as residents of this city, chose very well in this city council. I'd like to recognize council members Casperson, Ivy, Coates, Henderson, and Belliston. Each of them are my friends. Each of them bring a unique perspective, skill set, and dutifully fulfill their assignments, always with the best interest of this community at heart. A round of applause for the council. Council members here, would you please stand? We welcome our friends from other areas. Gary Webster from Senator Lee's office, Rayleigh Madrid from Congresswoman Malloy's office, Commissioners Iverson and Almquist, State Representative Colin Jack, Mayor Billings, and other elected officials. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Washington. Now, as is tradition here, for the last 4 years at least, I give two awards. And the first award is the American Trailblazer Award. It's an honor. We started it with a few years ago with a dear friend of mine who passed away too early, Brad Staheli. And so this American Trailblazer Award this year, I'll read the bio and then we'll invite the individual to come forward. Lee Bunnell grew up in northern Utah. College football brought him south to Dixie College, where he was part of the 1963 undefeated team. Later, he became the head coach of Dixie College football team for 9 years. And in 1979, under his leadership, the team clinched the ICAC championship. In addition to coaching, he taught biology, algebra, PE, served as a dean and the head of the science department, influencing generations both on and off the field. In 1983, he was appointed as Washington City's first Justice Court judge. A legal background was not required at the time. He quickly learned the complexities of the judicial system, and for 35 years, Judge Bunnell served Washington City with fairness, wisdom, and a sharp wit. He believed that government of the people should be for the people. He handled a wide range of cases, but joked about dog-related cases, saying that he's been chased and bitten all over town. He's also officiated hundreds of weddings, a role he continues to embrace and, in fact, still has a key to City Hall for such occasions. Judge Bunnell has dedicated himself to service and family. As a youth, he served a church mission in Illinois and later served as both a bishop and a member of a stake presidency. He and his wife, Carol, have been married for 61 years in June and have raised 5 amazing children. He has a deep love for gardening. In fact, he planted what is now the oldest registered ponderosa pine in Washington County. In 2018, Judge Bunnell retired, stepping down due to regulations requiring judges to leave the bench at age 75. However, his legacy in the community remains strong, having laid the foundation for the city's modern justice court system. Judge Bunnell's decades of service have left an enduring mark on Washington City. His leadership, dedication, and humor made him a beloved figure in the community. Judge Bunnell, you'll stand. Carol. The next award is the Mayor's Award for Public Service. Robert Snow Everett grew up in St. George as the oldest of 6 children, learning responsibility early by working on his family's farm and dairy. Despite his demanding chores, he excelled in baseball and track. He graduated from Dixie College and BYU before marrying Janet Young in 1966. In 1977, they built a home on his father's farm in Washington Fields, where he and Janet raised 10 children and also helped raise 3 Native American Indian placement students. He continued the family legacy of farming, raising various livestock and crops around their 2-story brick home, transporting water for the family in a 300-gallon tank in the bed of his green pickup truck. At the time, Washington Fields was still part of the county until being annexed into city limits in the early 1980s. Mr. Everett devoted his career to education, teaching special ed and 3rd grade at East Elementary School. He was an educator for 35 years, and he served as principal of our very own Washington Elementary for 11 years. His dedication to public service extended into the community, where he coached youth baseball from the late 50s into the 1980s, influencing many local athletes. He played baseball with Bruce Hurst and Jeffrey R. Holland, and coached Little League teams that advanced to regional playoffs. Beyond sports, he and Janet have volunteered at church farms, orchards, and canneries, offered free goat milk to infants, and even brought baby goats to local schools for children to enjoy. Robert also served extensively in his church as a bishop, member of a stake presidency. His church service extended worldwide as he completed 3 full-time missions in Missouri, Australia, and Scotland, Ireland. He also served for many years in what many consider the best calling, Scoutmaster. Mr. Everett's lifelong dedication to education, public service, and faith has left a lasting legacy in Washington City, making him a deserving recipient of the Mayor's Award for Public Service. This building, a lot like Washington City, is revitalizing and transforming. We've remodeled this hall, and we're breathing new life into a downtown area that remains authentic to its roots and proud heritage. Here's what we started with. Here it is under construction. And here is the finished product. Now, during construction, many accused me of coming here every day, and I quickly said no. I'm here at least 2 or 3 times a day checking on the progress. But in all sincerity, I am very grateful for many in attendance today of the team that worked tirelessly on this project. It was indeed a labor of love. I also want to recognize and appreciate and express gratitude for the vision and support of the City Council. It means a lot. This hall was originally built as an addition to the 2-story schoolhouse. It was built 100 years ago. It served as our first community center. It did so for decades. Now restored and modernized as a social hall and community gathering place, it is a landmark and a tribute to the past while setting the stage for the future. If you look up, the rafters, original, enclosed and hidden with the drop ceiling since 1957. Nobody living knew they were up there until we got a big ladder, peeled it back, and looked. The sandstone walls, quarried from the hillside near the baseball fields. The basalt lava rock foundation, solid, tested as part of the remodel, and still around the entire perimeter of the old school, now museum, and this addition. The wood floors you're sitting on, 100-year-old maple, sanded and refinished, sitting on 3 beams over dirt. The lobby, a new addition that exposes the east exterior walls, adds restrooms and a serving area. In the lobby are paintings of those individuals who originally guaranteed the notes of the entire community to make this addition a reality. Arthur Paxman, Miller Iverson, and Calvin Hall. Skillfully done by a very talented and local artist, Del Parson. Please take a look to admire those paintings in the building before you leave. To the back, the carpentry arch and pioneer window. Found late in the remodel, also hidden and covered for 3/4 of a century. The wood was sanded down to the 4th color, and the oldest color, which is the green you see today. The window matches the front of the schoolhouse. 3 of the 4 panes are original. If you look close, you can see the one we replaced. Today, the hall is available for residents and community groups to use once again as a gathering place that unites the community. Its history makes it, and the old school to which it was added, a treasured landmark, a tribute to our proud Dixie Cotton Mission heritage. Is Utah Tech senior Marcus Wetzel, if you'll please stand. Hanging in the back is a set of paintings, Marcus's paintings. In his words, a tribute to blue-collar workers, the American dream, all that makes this country great, and the meritocracy upon which this country was founded. For those of you without a dictionary, meritocracy is the notion of a political system in which economic goods or political power are vested in individual people based on ability and talent rather than wealth or social class. It seemed appropriate for these types of working class paintings to be the first exhibited here. Most of you probably know this, but Washington City is the second largest in Washington County, accounting for about 17% of the population. Now, historically, residents here have been content to grow gardens and farm fields. And I'm still totally happy with that, by the way. But we have been discovered. So in order to maintain the quality of life we all love here, we need to collect enough sales tax to provide for public safety, roads, and other services. The only way to do that is with the intentional effort of bringing about commercial projects in the appropriate places. As you can see, our city currently runs a deficit of 4% in comparison to its population. In order to correct that, my goal is to continue to emphasize economic development, primarily along the I-15 corridor in order for our sales tax revenue to, at a minimum, equal, if not exceed, the percentage of our population. And while in the past, in Washington, we've talked about things that we're going to do, some of which came about, some didn't. Today, we're talking about results, things that are done, under construction, or fully entitled. And I'll run through these recognizing that I'm not able to point out all of them. 2 firsts to Utah started here, right here in Washington City. 7 Brothers and Panera Bread. My wife and daughters are always asking for more places to shop and eat. So there you go. Last week, we cut the ribbon on Findlay Hyundai. It's the first dealership in the Sienna Hills Auto Mall. As you can see, dealer lots are selling fast. The Residence Inn by Marriott, under construction on Green Spring. You'll remember the junction if you were at my State of the City last year. I showed the before and after elevations and site plans. This is one of the 2 larger buildings that's under construction in the fields. We call it neighborhood commercial near Crimson Cliffs High School. We look forward to those convenient services being brought closer to the residents who live in that area. Now take a moment to look at this drone footage while you continue to wrap your head around the ARA Southwest Logistics Center. You can see the footings of 2 buildings, nearly 200,000 square feet each, under construction. You can see all of the pioneering taking place in terms of roads, underground utilities, etc. And it's making quick progress. It's been a collaborative effort. Freeport West project will, in conclusion, account for nearly 5 million square feet of space and open up the entire east side of the St. George Regional Airport for commercial and industrial development. You heard this announcement earlier this year. Winco Foods, fully entitled, construction drawings nearing completion. It will be going vertical this year and open next. As I said, this is only a few of the serious momentum of things happening right here in Washington City. I've mentioned and shared this before, but if you go to washingtoncity.org, click on development, click on economic development, there's an interactive map. You can click on, if you're interested in commercial, the yellow stars. It will show where it is in the process. Plat maps, elevations, etc. So you can see exactly what's happening in a city that has a lot of momentum currently. Now, commercial development, a focus on economic development, and the sales tax that benefits our police and fire, which is over 80% of our general fund budget, in addition to roads and other things. It doesn't come without effort and expertise. Rusty, I was going to ask you to stand, but you're already standing quietly. Would you raise your hand, please? This is our effort. She is our expertise. Rusty Hughes, a round of applause for our Economic Development Director. We couldn't do our job without you doing your job so well. Thank you. All of the projects that I've mentioned here and many more are a result of her dedication. And there's one more. The Main Street and Telegraph RFQ. It's a request for qualification similar to a request for proposal. This RFQ is ready. It will include planning the revitalization and redevelopment of our downtown. including almost 7 acres of assembled city-owned property. Washington City will prioritize working with a development team to create and build something special, recognizing that density, height, setbacks, parking, quality of life, and other factors will all need to be considered. The right partner should be prepared to collaborate with the city and to acquire the property and move forward on the project without delay. The RFQ is set for final review by the City Council later this month. If all goes well, it is planned to open on April 1st and will remain open until July 2nd, 2025 at 2 p.m. I figured since we started with James Taylor, we could stick just a little bit on that theme, country roads. You know, I remember growing up not far from the Everetts and others who live in the fields, and there were more potholes than people, you know, more tractors than cars. It really was an idyllic childhood, an agricultural childhood. Now we have high schools and these wonderful communities and neighborhoods where people gather and as my cousin said, the ground was good for raising crops. Now it's good for raising families, and I really believe that. With that comes increased traffic. And we've had 2 firsts in terms of interchanges this year. One is at the top of Main. We call it the Main Street or Exit 12 I-15 interchange. Now, if you look on the west side there, that is where the Winco Foods will be built on an approximately 14-acre site. There are additional pads that will be around the perimeter. Now, Buena Vista Boulevard has been sleepy for some years, but it's a collector road that parallels I-15 east-west on the north side. And we're also seeing a lot of traction with pad sites in the entitlement process. And it makes great sense for a lot of that commercial to be built along there. And if you continue on, you can see the new alignment of Main Street and the way that it ties into this beautiful Main here. If you go north, there's the master plan community of Solente that borders the Red Cliff Desert Reserve, and that's really coming along nicely well. The other new interchange was on George Washington Boulevard and SR7. To the north of this picture, still on the east side of the 7, is Long Valley Trails, which is another amazing master plan community. If you look along the hillside of what that's called Washington Dome, you can see the base of it there. Our Public Works Department built a 2.5 million gallon water tank on a hillside. I heard it was quite the adventure getting the cement trucks up and down to get that poured. To the east, the Wills Park is mass graded and under construction. Sandia Road in Pineview Estates has been completely rebuilt, and Red Hills Parkway at Green Spring has been widened to 5 lanes and ties into our neighbors. Additional traffic lights have been added. This is at George Washington Boulevard and 240 West. A lot of traffic is there now with kids going to various schools. This picture is looking east. If you turned around and looked back west, you would see the beautiful Red Cliffs Temple that is such a blessing here in our valley. Additional traffic signals have been added on Telegraph and 1100 East and on Buena Vista and Main in conjunction with the interchange. Okay, critical services. 2024 saw 822 residential building permits. It's not slowing down, it's chasing us. Community policing is still the approach we emphasize. Our officers are on the roads, in our schools, and in our communities. We're grateful for the service they render in keeping us safe. If I handed this mic to Chief Williams, He would remind us that the WCPD is here to protect and serve. He would also remind you to slow down, take the time you need to get where you're going, and not drive distracted. Right? In 5 short years, total calls and daily calls have doubled for our fire department. Some of you may have saw the story on KSL, but I'm particularly grateful for the residents who administered CPR and the firefighter paramedics who recently saved the life of a dear friend who had gone into cardiac arrest a few months ago while playing word basketball. Thank you to our firefighters. Now I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable a little bit. Washington County is experiencing its lowest water year on record since 1895. We're at a dismal 27% of the median snowpack. March is looking somewhat better. Sometimes April and May will bring water. The good news is our reservoirs, built by our forefathers, are relatively full. So we are okay for this summer, but we must stay vigilant. With AMI meters that you've heard me talk about before, including leak detection that can come right to your smartphone, with alerts, and the legislative body drafting and passing a landscape conservation ordinance, Washington City has already hit the new and lower target standard of average residential consumption of 0.59 acre feet per year. Not very many years ago, that standard was 0.89. Now, this graph that you can see shows that in 2019, the per capita per day usage was 427 gallons. Fast forward to 2022, Washington was at 221 gallons. In 22, 221 gallons. In 23, 176 gallons. And today, in 2024, 132 gallons per capita per day. That's really impressive. That's a 70% reduction in use in your homes in 5 years. And that is a tribute to the community buying into conservation, understanding that we live in a desert, we need to act like it. Now, Washington City and Washington County are leading the state in conservation initiatives. Ongoing efforts in water conservation and infrastructure are essential. The most effective way for residents to respond to drought is to irrigate landscapes only when needed. Let me say that another way. That means turn your sprinklers off in the winter and don't overwater during the other seasons. Where possible, convert grass to more climate-appropriate vegetation, often called natural scape or desert scapes. Now, if you're interested in doing this, property owners can receive up to $2 per square foot for grass replaced with water-efficient landscaping. One last fact that you might find interesting is that more than 2 million square feet of grass has already been replaced here in Washington County. That accounts for 30% of the grass replaced statewide, while as a population, we only make up 7%. We are punching above our weight big time in that. Our next phase, as we continue with conservation, is regional reuse and purification. The municipalities, in conjunction with the Washington County Water Conservancy District, we're developing a regional reuse system that will provide local, reliable, drought-proof water for our community. It is projected to produce 24,000 acre-feet of water per year by 2042. That's enough to serve 40,000 homes. The system will use a new and existing water infrastructure network to purify, store, and deliver water. And I can tell you that it works. This is a picture of a recent trip with me and other mayors from the county. We went to San Diego, where they don't have a source like we do, which is the Virgin River Basin. They import 100% of their water, and they are ahead of us with technology. They are teaching us, we are learning, we are implementing the best practices here. And I would just end on this by saying, reusing water is critical to our future. As the open ditch canal that flood irrigated the Washington fields was an undertaking of a prior generation, the regional reuse and purification system is the undertaking of our time. Grapevine Trailhead. If you haven't been there, go. You'll see hikers, bikers, runners, dog walkers, people on horseback. It's amazing. It couldn't be better. And it's complete. The city has acquired the part of the Kirkland property. One of those original farming families that settled Washington. They've acquired property and water rights. The intention is to keep the meander ground by the river as open space. I mean, if something happened, where would family pictures be taken, right? Yeah, I know. This is important because it tells our story. We must see the value of open space and remember the farming heritage that we have. Property to the north of Industrial Road will be public use. Potentials are additional parks or potentially a cemetery. I've been keeping this has been on my mind for maybe 8 or 10 years, but I've been keeping it relatively quiet until the right time to announce this. This is the historic canal trail. Now, we talked about the open ditch canal. Years ago, it was piped and covered, and there's a 50-foot easement. We see so much value in our trail system. Not only does it connect residents, it connects neighbors, neighborhoods, communities, schools. It connects parks. So we've been working tirelessly to make this canal trail, mostly over which that historic open ditch canal, over that easement. And you can see in the red there, that's about 1.5 miles that is currently paved. You can see the blue, that's an additional 3 miles that we intend to pave. Of the approximately 63 easements needed, we have already acquired 51, and we haven't even approached all of the property owners yet. It's been a lot of work, but again, it's perfect for the active, outdoor, and healthy lifestyle we live here under the Dixie sun. Now, as Jordan mentioned, this year we celebrate the United States of America in conjunction with America 250. Here in the city, named after our first president and founding father, George Washington, we are participating with our friends and neighbors across the county in bringing about a memorial plaza. It will be a tribute to American heritage as well as our local farming heritage and history. I would like to thank and recognize the talented sculptor Jerry Anderson, who's designed and already built the sculpture of George Washington. And I'd like to thank our friends from the city of St. George in Washington County who partnered with us in Thirds for the purchase of that statue. So please join us for the unveiling and ribbon cutting next month on April 21st at 6 p.m. There are many exciting things happening here in Washington City. The results we are seeing have been years in the making. The seeds that we planted today, whether they be planted in the Washington fields or along our I-15 commercial corridor or right here in our historic downtown, will grow for the benefit of the community. I am proud of the progress my council and I are making, moving Washington forward while holding on to and cherishing the timeless values that keep our foundation strong. We feel a strong duty to cultivate the seeds we have planted in a way that is authentically Washington. Serving as mayor has been and will continue to be the privilege and opportunity of a lifetime. And I appreciate the support that I feel from our community. I love this city of ours, and I look forward with optimism to what lies ahead.